Well, good morning, everybody. I've come to talk to you about our latest creation at the Village Hall of a website, and why we wanted a website, how we put it together. I'm going to show you the website and go through it, and also how to maintain and look after a website. I haven't got very strong IT skills, but I'm managing to maintain and look after the website and enjoying doing it. So I'm going to share all those things with you. I have written a PowerPoint, which we'll send out at the end of the session rather than show it now, because I've got other things that I thought I'd show you along the way. And it's going to be in 3 sessions with a question time interspersed after each session. So I'll stop at various points and see if there's any questions or any further discussion. And as some of you have got a website already, I hope I'm not telling you, I hope that what you learn from me is still valuable to having a website. So why did Witcham Village Hall want a website? Well, mainly it was, I'm the chair of the Village Hall, and myself and a couple of other people were very keen, and the rest of the other trustees weren't that keen. They felt that we were getting bookings okay, and we didn't necessarily need to go out there as a website. But I just felt that our bookings clerk had a lot of work to do sending emails. We were using personal emails, we needed a Village Hall email, we needed to manage our bookings more efficiently, we needed to get more than the booking information out there to the public to meet a wider audience. And also, when we clicked onto Halls for Hire, it says website, and there was nowhere for anybody on Halls for Hire to click to get further information about our website. So I thought that it would boost that link to us as well. So I had to persuade the trustees why we should have a website, and I went out and researched that. I also felt that after COVID, it would be a nice time to have a new approach for our Village Hall to get out there in the public domain. And also, luckily, after having received all these support grants through COVID, we had a nice little pot of money, which I felt could be spent wisely on providing a website for the hall as well. So I put a little plan together, which I'm going to share with you now. If I can. Here we go. So I went and researched with 10 other village halls. I looked at their websites, I considered what they were doing, I spoke to people in person, and I also emailed them and got replies. And from this feedback, I spoke to the Village Hall about how people felt that it was important to have a website. I'm willing to share all these documents with you at a later date, but you don't need to read all of that now. So I put together what I felt was a document to persuade our trustees, or a plan of campaign, as it were, which I'll share with you now, with various headings to discuss with the trustees. So I looked at why it was important to provide the information to the public. I thought that it would reduce the work of our bookings clerk. I thought it would enable users of the hall to have a free platform for advertising their clubs and things that went on at the Village Hall. I thought we have the World Pea Shooting Championship in Witcham, which is our maiden fundraiser, which has been on hold since COVID. And whether it will ever happen again, I don't know. But there's now a page on our website which holds all the history of that event, which records that for posterity. I use it as a means of advertising events that are going on the hall, in the hall. It has a link to local Facebook pages now, and then I considered the costing, which I'll go back and share with you in a little while. But all of those points we discussed at depth at a meeting, and I felt that they were all valuable points to persuade the committee, and they agreed in the end that we should put a little plan together, that we should contact 3 website providers, that we should talk to them in person. So I set up 3 Zoom meetings over the darker days of COVID to lighten it up. And we discussed the prospects of what each provider could provide for us as a website. And then we went back and chose one that we felt could provide us with what we were interested in having us on our website. It was very interesting because they all spoke to us in a very similar way, and we went back and researched the websites that they'd actually built in the past to see whether we liked what effect they could provide on screen. And from that we went forward and chose a person to build our website. Are there any questions around that? No, pretty straightforward. Okay. Oh yes, Malcolm, would you like to switch off your mute there?
I'm just wondering what regulation you considered as to what limitations or controls you needed to consider, and whether the website authors you were looking for had particular history or knowledge of the regulations that you would need to meet as a public community, you know, in the same way the parish councils have quite restrictions on what they can do and have to do on their websites.
Yes, well, one reason we wanted to do it was to support the data protection of trustees, because we were using personal emails, and from this website we now have an Enquiries Act which goes to our bookings clerk and saves her having to use any private data. We discussed the privacy and the data protection on the website with the providers, and at the bottom of our screen you'll see that there is a privacy notice which they put together on our behalf and considered all of those matters. So I feel that we're secure in those areas, and they wrote the policies for that as well. Is that
okay? It's just that in particular with parish councils, you know, there are a lot of recommendations and so on as to, you know, what email addresses you should have, what the type of email addresses are, what the website addresses should be, and so on. I guess that for a village hall it's a lot simpler than that, but I just wondered whether there were any other efforts, and maybe
you know, or maybe Lisa can answer that in a broader fashion.
Yeah, I don't think you're governed in quite the same way as local government websites. So I think you know, you're sticking more to business principles than you would be local government principles around that.
Yeah, okay, fine, thanks.
We did, our parish council does have a website. We do have a Witcham website, and previous to us having a website of our own, we were linked to the parish council website, but it didn't come up as highlighted at the top of the Google search. It came up as parish council, and I didn't feel we were getting enough coverage from that. And our website has since built a new site, and we did discuss becoming part of that again, but they were only happy to give us a link to their website and not actually feature as part of that website. So maybe that is part of the data protection that they're having to consider as well in that wider field. Yeah.
So, a question from Roy. Roy, have you got a question? Oh, Roy, you need to unmute.
Are we unmuted?
Yeah, that's it, you're done.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what booking system you had. You hadn't got Hallmaster already, presumably.
No, we hadn't. No, we had nothing. It was just we had a phone number which belonged to a person's telephone, which we had out there in the domain, so people could just call that and they spoke directly to the bookings clerk.
Okay, thank you.
But now they can go onto the website and download all the information. We do not have a calendar on our website. We decided against that because bookings change, and we just felt it was better to keep that private within our own domain at the time. Okay, so I put together a little, let me just, sorry, let's see if I can bring this up. I'll just bring this up, sorry. Because I thought I had this for you. Okay, so I put together a little specification to share with the people that were going to present to us prior to the presentation, so that they knew what Witcham Village Hall was looking for. This got amended over time, but basically we wanted to have separate pages, one that told us about the hall, one that had documents related to the hall, one about information of users of the hall, and then events and the World Peace shooting, and then just a gallery page of pictures of the hall. And from that specification, we asked them to tell us about their web design expertise, the cost of a domain, and the cost of details of maintaining the website. So we considered all of those points in preparation.
Joy, can I just, the screen that we can see in front of us is just your, it didn't actually show the document. Did you mean to show the document?
Oh, I did, sorry, I brought it
so
up
it didn't share. It didn't
okay,
share.
I'll share it again.
It showed your kind of desktop element. It
Okay.
might not do it from there. You might have to open the document and then share the document.
I have opened new
Because
share.
it opens on your taskbar at the bottom. That'll probably be okay, but it won't. I don't think it will link from that table screen.
Right, let's get this out then. So now let's.
You'll need to stop sharing on that one, and then reload.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know why it's not.
Sometimes if you've got lots of things open, it doesn't show them all as well. So I don't know if there's some things you could close.
Ah, here it is.
Free it up.
There we go. Can you see it now?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so there it is, yes. So I kept it very simple and to the point, really. Just thought about what the needs of the hall were. Didn't want it to be too elaborate. One of our key criteria was that we kept it as simple as possible, so that anybody could find information very easily of what they wanted to know. Yeah, so okay. So we discussed that, and then after we'd had the presentations, I did put together another document, which is this one, which I did an overview of what all the providers could give to us and what each of the companies we looked at had to offer, what their basic website provision was, whether they would train and help us maintain the site, the costings. As you can see, look, we've got the provision of the privacy policy there, which was important, which we've just discussed, and whether we'd use blogs or news sections to advertise the hall, and what access it could provide us for webs for hire. So we then looked at that and discussed that in depth and considered it. So I think we did quite a rigorous assessment of what we needed and where we needed to go. And from all that planning, things never quite run as smoothly as you think they will. And there was still lots of discussion and lots of Zoom meetings, and this wasn't quite right, that wasn't quite right, until we came up with a website. So are there any questions about that section? Okay, right, I'll attempt now to share our website with you. Here we go. Can you all see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this now is Witcham Village Hall website. We designed a new logo for our village hall, and we now head that on all of our documents in this process to give it a nicer appeal. These are the pictures that people see on first opening the website. The hall as it is today, and our new facilities. We did update our hall in 2013, and we finished it in 2018. It was quite a long process, but that's what you see today. So if you go to any of the tabs at the top, we have different pages that you can come into. But first of all, if you just want to make an inquiry to Witcham Village Hall, you go to the top and it takes you straight to an email link where you can contact our booking secretary immediately. But should you want to read more about the hall, you can click on here and it takes you straight to our documents. It tells you about private hire. If you click on one of these buttons now, it just opens up the policy at the bottom of the page, which you can see, and it's all there for everybody to read. Gives you information about our bar, and there are useful links at the bottom, and here you can see the privacy policy and different other groups that we've linked to in the village, the cricket club if people want to log into that, the pub, our community archive group and other Facebook pages. So if I can find my mouse. We've also got our hall fees, which come up immediately for you to download to find out the costing of the hall and how to book. Again, another link to booking immediately. I think you need to keep that closely onto the pages. It outlines our hall capacity and what we have to offer, so people can read all of that and research it before they come to want to make an inquiry. And here are some other photographs just at the bottom of the page showing the hall. Now, this was a really key one that we discussed about how to get involved with our village hall, and we thought it was a good way to possibly build trustees and get people involved in what goes on in the hall and maybe want to come and work and support us. So we just did a little bit of information about what it is to become a volunteer, what it might be to be a sponsor, people who have sponsored us over time for the pea shoot and other different things, and how to get in touch with somebody, again at the bottom of each page, so that we've got that link immediately to the public. And I'll just briefly show you this about the pea shoot. So we've got a poster there, we've got a bit of history of the pea shoot, we've got past winners of the pea shoot, and just some information and rules in the hope that in the future, should we be able to have the pea shoot, we would use this as a registration point, and we would get to know how many people are coming to the pea shoot in preparation for that. And then we've just got the photo gallery where they can just click on any of these photographs to make them larger. And then this is our news blog where it talks about what's going on in the hall. We had a fish and chip supper. We had a wedding fair, but unfortunately it got cancelled, so I could put notification on the website to tell people about that. And this was the first news blog that I put on when our website became live. And then again, how to contact us and how to find us on a map. So all the information's there, I feel. I'm just going to just stop sharing this for a second with you and show you another document that I intend to put up there, which I thought was very useful, if it's here, which was online, isn't anymore. We just had a design of the village hall when we modernised it, drawn up on an A4 sheet, and we thought that was useful to put on there as well for people to see the size of the hall, what accommodation we have, and what it looks like from the inside. So you can add lots and lots of useful information onto there, which I feel gives a good overall picture of your hall and saves somebody half an hour's conversation on the telephone when time's precious today. So are there any questions about that? Yes, Malcolm?
Just one thing, I noticed that when you clicked on a policy, it downloaded a Word document.
Yes. We could put a PDF on there.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, one, if you're using Word, then you are assuming that everybody who's downloading it is using Word, which isn't ideal. And then secondly, of course, they can edit it. So they can.
Well, they can't actually, because you have to have permission to go into the site to edit anything.
No, by the time you've downloaded your Word document, you can edit it.
Well, you can at home, but you can't on screen.
And then they can print it off and send it to you and say, but look, it said this in the plan.
Well,
it's
yes.
not a good idea to use Word documents on your website. They should be PDF at least. And I know you can edit PDFs, but it's typically the thing you do. So I would strongly recommend that you change all of those to PDFs.
Okay, we'll do that.
I would agree with that, and we would recommend that you use PDF documents because they are more secure, as Malcolm's outlined. But yeah, if anybody's thinking of putting any policy documents on a website, do make sure they are PDF versions.
Okay, we'll amend that then. Good, thank you for that. Okay, so I will now show you how we maintain our website and just talk you through a little bit of okay, so we use a provider called Wix, which is what was recommended to us because it's quite a straightforward system. And we sign in, and then I go to my site and it brings up Witcham Village Hall. So before I go into the site, these are just some tools down here which you can use, and one of them that's quite interesting is this report writer, which gives you an overview of people that use the hall, and so you can collect some data as to whether your hall website is being used very often or not. And you'll see that we've had 2 active leads over this period of time, which isn't a huge amount, but it does show that people are using the website and that it is useful in its content. So I thought that was very interesting. But if we go back to home, we click on Edit Site. It just takes a second to load. And we're now on the site. Picture. So we can go to this page here which says switch page, and these are the pages that we have on our website, and we can update any of them at any time. So Malcolm, I was going to update a policy, which I will do now, but it will be in Word, just so that to show people how to use it, and I'll alter it later. So you click on the page that you want, and I was going to update the private hire terms and conditions. So you click onto that and it brings up these little symbols. And if you go to link, it says you can choose a file. Then I'll go to upload media. I'm going to upload it from my computer. And I'm going to upload private hire agreement 2B. So one thing that I learned in this process is to label your agreements that you change in order, so you know which is the latest one that you have to use on the website. And it drops into your website folder. You click onto that and it says add to page. It's added to the page, it's done now. So then you have to remember to save it. That's done. And before it's viewable by other people, you have to publish it. And that's done now. And then on this side, there's the desktop for a laptop computer, but if you switch to here, it will then update it to your mobile phone view, because the view on the mobile phone is different to on the laptop. And you publish that and it will update your mobile phone as well. And then if you want to go back to a different page, you just home in on here, and we could end up at the pea shooting page and just amend that. And I'll bring it back to computer, and you can see the difference in the size. So it does take a little bit of understanding how to do it, but it's very straightforward in doing that. I'm just going to take you back. Are there any questions on that? No. So I'm just going to take you back to the site. View site. And in order for the new documentation to be published, one would have to just refresh it and then it will be in place. But if we go back to here, I'm just going to show you our blogs. Okay, so these are very easy to add to the site as well. And if you want to edit it, so our fish and chip supper is now no more, so that could be taken away. But if you want to edit it, you just use it like any other document, click on it, and it will allow you to type and print. But I just want to delete it because it's out of date now. So I'm going to move it to trash, move to trash. And that's gone from our website now. And away we go. So with a little bit of training and support, I feel it's not too difficult to maintain a website. We did have a young lady in the village who is an IT expert, and rather than continue to pay our web developer £45 an hour, she has agreed to join us in support of the website. So if I have a problem, something I can't understand, she'll have a Zoom chat with me, and we will look at the point that I need to alter or change or maintain, and she gives me advice and help, and that's really useful to have within the village. So are there any questions on that? Lizzie?
Can I just check, when you downloaded your 2B document, does the 2A automatically get removed?
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It uploads straight onto the top of that one.
And how much space do you give to your users to advertise their clubs and things?
Well, we can extend that page as far as we want, really. So I went to all of the different groups in the Village Hall and asked them if they'd like us to advertise on their behalf. Some said yes and some said no because they were full or they had their own sites. So it's limited space for us on that point. And you learn how to extend the page or widen the page and add the information to it. The key point is to just save any alterations that you make, because if you don't do that, it isn't saved, obviously. And then you must publish to make sure it becomes live.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so going forward, we purchased a Hall phone at the same time as the website because our emails are then linked to that Hall phone as well, and we're not using private means for providing that service to the public. It has aided our bookings. We do get contacts via Hire for Halls as well through our website. Our hall is now booked every weekday, sometimes 2 or 3 times, and we're getting party bookings at weekends through the website, so it has been useful. We are in the process of developing a booklet to sell ourselves as a wedding venue, which we will put on the website and which people can view and look at that. As I said about the World Pea Shooting Championship, we will use it as a point of call should we have another one. I'm going to develop a feedback form and pop on there as well to get people to feedback their views of the hall, because we don't get much information in that way. And also I'm going to have a look at using a blog on the front page so that when people open it up, they know that the wedding is tomorrow rather than to have to go into the news section. We chose the news section at the time because we felt we didn't have enough news to put on the front cover of our website going forward all the time. But it's surprising what little snippets you think, oh, that might be really useful to just put on there for somebody to link into us to find some information. So that's where we are at the moment. So are there any other questions? Yes, Roy.
Am I unmuted? Yeah. Can I query the hall phone? What did you mean? You didn't mean one in the hall, did you?
No, we give it to our bookings clerk. So we've just purchased one phone that's for Village Hall use only.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a mobile.
And actually it's very useful because when the booking clerk goes on holiday, she hands it to me and I can continue taking the bookings, and it's very useful in that way. We receive emails on that as well, so if we're on holiday we can reply to people should we choose to. So it's a useful tool for us to have.
Thank you.
Joy, I just want to ask, how do you vet your weekend bookings to make sure you don't get wild parties?
How do we vet them?
Vet them, yes.
Okay, so we only vet weekend parties if they're on our terms and conditions and our halls of hire, if they are for somebody 18 years of age. Otherwise we talk to the person when we're doing the booking, glean an idea of the type of party they want to have. We did once make a mistake and not follow a booking through, and ended up where I was monitoring the hall quite regularly during an event. And I think we learnt from that we need to do a little bit of research. But basically we just do that by word of mouth and knowing the person that's hiring the hall.
So you could book online for the hall, but then you'll vet that.
Yes, you can't book directly online. You
okay.
make an inquiry online,
Okay.
and then the booking clerk gets back to you with the date and confirms that and asks the relevant questions. Then we say to them, please download the paperwork from the website, which saves the bookings clerk the effort of emailing everything out, and take a look at that website and make sure what we've got on offer is what you want, and then we go from there.
Thank you.
Penny?
Do you not show prospective hirers over the hall at all?
No, we do. If they wish to do that, we'll meet them and show them around the hall.
I mean, I meet every person at weekends, because they ask questions that they would never find on the website.
Well, we've got a little handout that we give to them now, which has got all the fire rules and regulations on, the health and safety points, and also how to unlock and lock up the hall and how to use the heating and various things like that, which we talk through with them when they pick up the key. Some people we may meet at the hall, some people collect the key from the key caretaker.
Thank you.
I suppose we're quite trusting in what we do in that respect.
I think you have to be very careful these days. I sometimes Google people. You have to be very careful.
We do have a policy of the cleaner goes in straight after an event, and should there be any issues, she photographs what's there. And in our terms and conditions, we do say that there might be an incurred cost should there be damages.
Do you take dilapidation deposits, cash deposits?
No, we don't. We use.
Wow.
We're very trusting, aren't we?
Gosh, yeah, it's very.
We used to take a check payment and pay it into the bank,
Good, because
but you have to get it cleared, and it had to be in time before the event. But we do ask for full payment within 2 weeks of the event. But no.
Thank you.
These are all very valid points for discussion. We have mooted them at various trustee meetings over the years. Touch wood, it's been okay.
Yeah. We take a dilapidation deposit. The caretaker gives a receipt, and then it's returned once everything's been cleared and cleaned away satisfactorily, and it seems to work okay.
We have asked people for extra payment for cleaning after the event, and they have paid up because we felt that the hall wasn't left in the state that we wished it to be found. It is a difficult one. What do you recommend, Lisa?
I don't think there is a right way. I think each hall will have their own way of managing the situation. As you say, it's a difficult area, and the fact that I think when you've had your fingers burnt, you're probably very cautious about other organisations, other hirers coming in. I think it also depends who you're hiring the facility to. If you're predominantly hiring to local people who who's hiring the hall, and you have very regular hires that you know what to expect, and you have that relationship with them. If you're accepting hires from people further afield, then obviously the risk is greater. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration in terms of the type of business you're experiencing on a regular basis. It might be useful to hear from others in terms of what their experience is around that, really. Is anybody else?
Can you refuse a booking, Lisa? I mean, we did have a policy once that we didn't have 11 to 18-year-old parties because vandalism, they arrived drunk and all sorts of things.
It's an area that you have to be very careful around. You can't be seen to be doing age discrimination in any way. So it is a case of looking at that, looking at a booking, assessing that, speaking to the hirers, understanding what it is that is going to happen at that event. And if you really are in a position where you feel you don't want that event to go ahead, the trustees do have the authority to refuse a booking in their facility. But I think it is that relationship between hirer and the trustees. So it's understanding what the hirer wants, and also having a really solid hire agreement. Your hire agreement is that legal contract between the two parties, and if the hirer is signing up to your terms and conditions, then they can be held account to that hire agreement. If they don't actually act in accordance with that document, you can take action against them. So, you know, I just would be careful about, you should not advertise that you do not accept teenage birthday parties, because, you know, that is age discrimination, and you need to make sure that your facility is accessible for all. Joy came up with a very important point in her presentation around not having the calendar on the website, and that's certainly something that I support personally, because I think if you're advertising your calendar, you're showing all of your available dates. It doesn't give you any flexibility in terms of when you have got a difficult customer coming along that you instinctively think, oh, I'm not sure this is going to work. You know, your default position is always to say, oh, you know, we're booked, we're busy, we're holding that space for somebody. If you're advertising your calendar on your website, it's an open platform. Everybody can see what is happening. They can see your open areas. So just be very mindful if you're going to put your calendar on the website, and think about, you know, how that might impact on some of your planning processes. Mike.
Hi. Am I coming up? We have a calendar online, but we have two separate calendars, one with all the details and information in it, and a separate one with confirmed bookings and possible bookings, which doesn't give any information at all unless the buyer requests it. And that works brilliantly. It allows people to check whether or not a date's likely to be free.
Absolutely, that's a really good way of doing it, by having that, you know, booked or free, you know, kind of availability for your calendar. Yeah, so that's a good alternative.
We have in our terms and conditions, we say that there's £100 indemnity payment if there is any damage to the hall, which covers our insurance excess, rather than take a damage deposit, which somebody put up on the chat.
Yes, I was going to say that Mike's put in the chat. I don't know if everybody can see the chat, but Mike popped in there that that you take a damage deposit, preferably by cheque, and you only bank it if damage is actually is done at the facility.
Yeah, but Lisa, they can then cancel the cheque.
They can. That's the thing with cheques. That's where the
We've had that.
Mm.
We used to have that. That's why we take cash.
Yeah.
I think you also have to be, you know, aware of the public and Facebook and various sites like that in the way that you deal with people today, because you don't want a black name for your village hall being put out there on Facebook, because you could lose a lot of productivity. I think it has to be dealt with sensitively, really. That was a concern of ours once. I just completed for our village hall a review for the insurance policy, and it was really worthwhile because we could tick so many boxes that our insurance payment was reduced by well over £50 this year. But one point that came up, which we are discussing now, which I'd value people's views on, is we keep documents in the village hall which are linked to our history and our accounts over time, and it suggested that you have a secure firebox in which to keep those documents in, so should there be a fire they wouldn't get damaged. Does anybody else have a fire safe box in their village hall to contain documents, or where do you keep your important documents away from harm? Because if they're in a house and just kept under our guidance, anything can happen anywhere, can't it?
I'm in the process. Sorry.
Oh, carry on, Penny.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the process of sorting out all the accounts that have been in our hall for about 20 years, and I'm actually sorting them out now. But your firebox is a really good idea.
Well, I thought it would be worth a purchase.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I might put that forward.
But I haven't costed it out yet.
No, no.
Certainly there are key documents that that you should keep protected, your governing document being one of them, the original copy of your governing document. Archives are really important, and it's one of the reasons that, you know, we often, when we when we come out to visit you, we often talk about the importance of annual reports and, you know, your minutes and all of these things. Keeping that archive is the history of your village hall. Trustees at the moment, you're just the caretaker for now, aren't you, of your charity? And it's really important to make sure the history of the charity is kept intact. And so making sure that your archive is safe and you know, kept up to date is such an important resource for future generations for the hall. So a firebox is great for your immediate stuff that you want to keep safe, either at your hall or with your treasurer or whoever is the custodian of key documents for you. But you can look at county archives as somewhere to store your really old documents and see if county archives will accept those documents for historical records.
Okay, thank you.
Top disk.
Mm.
There is a question in the chat. Lizzie has asked, roughly, Joy, how much did it cost to get the website built and what are your ongoing costs?
Good point. I did have that point ready to share with you, but so two quotes came in over £1,000, and one quote came in at 650. Now, being the prudent group that we are, we went with the lower cost, but whether we got value for money for that, I'll be honest with you, I don't possibly think that we did, because it incurred more work than what was actually allotted in the hours allocated for £650 and the cost of the site. To maintain it, there is no cost at the moment because I'm doing that. Well, there is a cost, but on the day-to-day running of the website, there's no cost. But should I ask this young lady in the village who's willing to help us, her charge is £35 an hour, which is £10 less than the web provider would charge. And whether her fees have gone up now, I don't know. Each year we have to pay Wix a subscription of £120 odd, and we have to pay Ionis, which is our email provider, a small fee as well. So ongoing, I'm hoping that it will be less than £200 a year to maintain. But you know, those figures I've quoted you are now nearly 2 years old, so things may well have gone up in that time.
Question?
Yes, Michael?
Why do you use Ionis for email and not use, I mean,
Well, it was recommended by our provider. When she got the domain name and she set the emails up, she just recommended that to us. And so I went with that.
Just recently, I set up a couple of generic emails within the Wix website. So we have office at Gorefield Community Hall and info at Gorefield Community Hall. Then regardless of who's in office, as in office emails go to the treasurer, info come to me. If those personnel change, then the emails remain the same, and I guess that's the same with the Ionis, but they're done through the Wix website that we have.
Right. Well, I wasn't very knowledge savvy around that, and so I just went with what was recommended, I'm afraid.
That's fine.
I didn't realise Wix actually provided an email.
Yeah, again, it's another add-on. It's another cost. They charge an annual fee for it.
Right. Yes. Mm.
Right. At Swaffham Prior Village Hall, we use Google Sites, which is completely free, and I've set up individual accounts using Gmail. So we've got bookings.spvh@gmail, one for all the different committee members, and that seems to work really well. And the only ongoing cost we have, because Google Sites is completely free, is the domain name. Everything else is free. And it works very well, I think.
Yeah. I suppose if somebody didn't know how to use that site, you'd need somebody to teach you how to do that, or is it that simple?
It's exactly, I mean, like Wix, it is a drag and drop type interface. So someone can do it in Wix, someone can do it in Google Sites. I did it myself. It's certainly a lot easier than using some of the other ones that are used commercially.
Right, yes.
Yeah, not tricky.
Well, you don't need an elaborate design, do you really? You need just something simple and informative that the public can access easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would everybody who has a website here today be happy for me to share your website addresses in the email when I send around the recording? Because I just think it would be useful that for people too who haven't got a website yet to maybe have a look at the difference in terms of how they're set up and also the platforms that you're using. Would everybody be happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fab, okay. Can you please just indicate if you've got a website again, just so I can quickly note it down? So Newton, we've got Whittlesford. Who else is there? Oh, Joe at Buckton's got one, and Staughton Prior. Anthony, where are you from?
I'm from Foxton.
Foxton, lovely, thank you. Brilliant, I think that's everybody, isn't it? Oh, Gorfield, I've got you down on my list. Yeah, that's
Okay.
brilliant, thank you. So what, oh, Steeple Morden as well. Brilliant, thank you. And I'll share those. I'll look the web addresses up, and I'll share those in the email. And I just think that will be really useful for all of us to be able to have a look and see what the differences are. The one point that I've picked up from my role over the last 6 years is the one key message I would say to all village halls who are setting up a website is please remember to put your address on there with your postcode, because you'd be amazed how many village halls forget to put their address and their postcode on there. And I think it's because you're local and you're thinking about local village hall for local people. But then when I try and find you, it's really difficult. So that would be my plea is, thinking about why further afield, please put your address and postcode on. Malcolm.
Can I also suggest that people use the what 3 words address?
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
increasingly used by people, and it's remarkably accurate, to within 3 meters. So you really know where your entrance is to your hall.
Absolutely, and actually Cambridgeshire Fire and Rescue Service recommend having your what's 3 words on, not only just on your website, but also on a poster in your facility, because quite often if somebody was there in an emergency, dialed 999, the fire service are now recognising what 3 words as the tickets to be able to get to your location, because quite often rural locations don't have postcodes or obvious street signs. So if you are, well, you should have your emergency poster up in case of emergency. Add your what 3 words to it. That will be really helpful. Penny,
How do you find it? What's 3 words? I've tried to find it.
yeah, so if you go onto the what's 3 words app, you can actually see exactly where you are, and what the fire service suggests is if you actually take it from not inside the hall but take it from your entrance gate, and it will have a unique 3 words for that. I can't remember what the square is. I think it might be a 2 meter square, but
it's a 3 meter square.
3 meter square.
And yeah, if you go on the website for what 3 words, and you can move the map around until the middle of the map is the point that you want it to be, and you can look at it both in a map view or a satellite view, so you can see a picture of your hall, and you can really move it around until the entrance is in the middle there, and it will tell you across the top what the 3 words are that gives you that 3 meter square.
Thank you.
I'll just ask one question of everybody. So a lot of you have got websites. Why were you interested in hearing about our website? Because I thought this would be people that hadn't got websites.
it's always new ideas, little ideas. And,
Oh, good.
And
Do you think you've got?
Yeah, there's definitely things that you have mentioned today that you go, oh yeah, that's an interesting point. We ought to think about that. And obviously, we're sharing things back with you as well. So it's that let's all pool our thoughts.
Resources.
And hopefully, all of them improve as a result of it. So so well done. That's good.
Michael, I think Michael had a comment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was hoping one of our trustees would have been here, because our website is in desperate need of updating, because we've done an extension to the hall and the details on the website have not been upgraded. So Adam, who was I was hoping would be here, isn't, so I'm going to show him the recordings.
I think that was one of the trustees' fears, actually. If what held us back from having a website before was who was going to maintain it, because it is a crucial area. You do need to keep dates updated, you do need to keep documents updated, don't you? And somebody needs to have the will and want to do that. Yeah, interesting point.
Always a challenge getting somebody to accept that.
It is.
Not just on websites, but on all sorts of issues. But there you go.
Yes.
Lovely, thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions on websites at all? Or can we draw this discussion to a close? Yeah. Fantastic. I will stop the recording in that case. So thank you very much. And can I thank Joy especially for the time it's taken to put your presentation together. The presentation slides, as we've said, will be circulated afterwards. And we're really grateful that you offer this up as a case study for us to all have a look at and discuss. So thank you very much for doing that, Joy. Let me